Now, Nigeria has 45 new ministers designate. President Tinubu's nominees have been screened and confirmed and gotten the final seal of approval from the Senate. They'll form his cabinet, perhaps a 48-strong cabinet, which is the largest in Nigeria's history. 3 nominees so far have not been confirmed yet, as they've written petitions against them. There was also a mild drama on the final screening day, with some senators split over Festus Keyamo's nomination. Our Rice correspondent Omo Bazwaye has more on this.
The Senate was thrown into rowdiness for several minutes and eventually forced to go behind closed doors after some lawmakers vehemently kicked against the nomination of former Minister of Labour and Employment Festus Keyamo into President Bola Tinubu's cabinet. Keyamo was the last of 48 nominees to be screened, and he had everything going well for him as he mounted the rostrum, reeling out his very intimidating credential as an attorney of the law. He informed the Senate how he had spent the last 30 years using the instrumentality of the law to advance the cause of democracy and the rule of law, and even how he had used his expertise in law to strengthen the powers of the Senate.
My struggle and battle for the respect for the rule of law also led me at some point, sir, to fight for the rights of the Senate.
But trouble started for Keyamo when the minority whip, Darlington Wokocha, turned the powers of the Senate on him. Coming under Order 81, subsection 1, Wokocha drew Senate attention back to events in 2020 and around the issues of public works funds amounting to 52 billion naira. Keyamo was the Minister of State for Labour and Employment at that time and had run into conflict with lawmakers over the management of the funds appropriated by the National Assembly to pay 1,000 public works employees recruited in each of the 774 local government areas. Wokocha recalled how Keyamo at that time denied lawmakers as representatives of the people the opportunity to oversight the exercise and even refused to honor invitations from both chambers of the National Assembly.
What happened to the 52 billion? What happened to the... But he is here, and it's our responsibility to find out. So, Mr. President of the Senate, I'm of the opinion so strongly that he has to tell us what really happened, but not here.
It was payback time, and senators were ready to take their own pounds of Keyamo's flesh. Abia South Senator Inaya Abaribe recalls Keyamo's behavior very vividly and quickly seconds the motion that his ministerial screening should be suspended.
I do support that this nominee should be stepped down pending when he decides that the National Assembly has that right to inquire into the workings of a minister and his ministry.
By this time, Keyamo's screening had effectively divided the Senate, with some senators calling on the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, to call for division and put the question again for those in support or against Keyamo's nomination. At this time, Senate had become completely rowdy, with Keyamo rooted to his feet, his fate squarely in the hands of the lawmakers. The Senate was eventually forced behind closed doors, with Akpabio rising to his feet in his bid to call senators on both sides of the divide to order. For several hours, the Senate remained in closed session, with words that Akpabio had been cited at the villa. When the Senate doors reopened, it was to a subdued Senate and a remorseful Keyamo who tendered unreserved apology to the Senate for his conduct.
Let me start with an unreserved apology. My apology is without reservation. It's total apology for the misunderstanding that arose between us in my committee at that time at the Ninth Assembly. I apologize without reservation. Total apology.
Attempt by some senators to subject him to further scrutiny was deflected by the Senate President, and Keyamo was allowed to take leave of the Senate. At the end, the Senate confirmed the appointment of Keyamo for the 4 others, including Dr. Bosun Tijani from Ogun State, who also had a difficult time over his unpleasant tweets about Nigerian lawmakers. But the nominations of former governor of Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai, executive director, Nexim Bank, Stella Okotete, and Danladi Abubakar, ministerial nominee from Taraba State, were put on hold due to the petitions against the 3 nominees. Omo Bazwaye, Arise News.
Well, for a review of the outcome of the ministerial screening, I'm joined in the studio by Dr. Ladan Salihu, who is a chieftain of the opposition People's Democratic Party. Also joining me live from our Lagos studio is Sir Kenny Okolugbo, who is a public affairs analyst. Gentlemen, good to see you both. Kenny, let me start with you. You know, sometimes with that drama, I just don't want to qualify it whether it's mild or heated drama. Some would have thought that you would have witnessed a walkout if it's all about service. But again, some Nigerians have said the Senate missed a golden chance of winning the hearts and minds of Nigerians.
Well, I watched it closely, and I like the way your reporter did capture it succinctly. I don't think it was a case of the Senate missing the golden chance. I think the Senate president actually acted with a lot of maturity. If you notice, he was on his feet. I can't remember when any Senate president has risen to his feet under Order 62 of the Senate rules. And you know, once he's on his feet, it is mandatory for all the senators to sit down. And even if you are talking, you stop talking and you sit down. I think that was the only point he was able to use to call them to order. Most of them were calling for divisions. You had some for Keyamo and some against Keyamo. But I think the lesson that we should actually draw from what happened at the last ministerial, the particular exercise, since Keyamo was the last minister to be screened, was that we should always respect the institution of government. And Keyamo has also accepted his faults. And if you look at the screening in its whole entirety, I would say that it had its ups and downs, but generally speaking, the Senate should be given a thumbs up because you had 3 batches of ministers who were screened in 6 days. I don't think that has happened before. Even on a Saturday, the Senate had to sit. If you also look at it, it's a bicameral house. The House of Rep is on vacation, and the senators, of course, who are saddled with the responsibility of making sure that the ministers are screened and confirmed, took it all the way, and at the same time had their committee chairman and deputy chairman in place before going on vacation. So if you look at it from this perspective, I think the Senate should be given a pass mark with what they did with the screening.
Let me bring in Dr. Ladan Salihu. You've had Ken pass mark for the Senate, and one very important aspect has to do with the Senate also sitting on the weekend to ensure that the task before it is completed with some speed.
Well, I want to say the Senate, not only did the Senate miss the chance to make history, the Senate in all seriousness did the job of fulfilling all righteousness. There wasn't any the screening in its entirety, in my view, wasn't so scrupulous, wasn't particularly, it was like just a roll call. Come in, take a bow, a few questions, and then, you know, somebody is ushered out. And I want to believe that the exercise of the Senate when it comes to screening of ministers that will represent not only their states, but in the entirety of our country, 200 million people is what we are talking about. You're not talking about representing a local government. You're not talking about representing an institution. You're not talking about representing your own political group or crew. You're talking about representing Nigeria and Nigerians. 200 million people. The Senate may have passed 45 ministers, but they have also lost the chance to make history. I believe that not all the 45, Nigeria with 200 million people, we have quality minds on the table. There are some of the ministers that you can say, from the PDP point of view, 9 governors, same faces, recycling people that have been charged or alleged to have been have cases of corruption. They have not been grilled. They've not been subjected to question and answers that Nigerians will demand. Answers that are not only satisfying or satisfactory, but will be seen to assuage our own hearts and minds, that we are having people who will go and do the needful, represent the government. What I see in the whole exercise, I'm sorry to say, it's like I said at the beginning, is to fulfill all righteousness and to bring people that will be compensated, if you like. You have a cabinet of compensation and cronies, as far as I am concerned. And when you look at it, even when you try to make a comparative analysis with the past cabinet of the Buhari administration, you can say, that even the nominees that Buhari had, by and large, are better than what we have on the table. Are you saying that Nigeria should have a cabinet where it's a clearinghouse of former governors, or it's a clearinghouse of former ministers, or it's a clearinghouse for job for the boys? This is a government. In government there is no vacuum. Yeah. As a PDP person, I would have thought this exercise should be done when the court cases would have been settled. But then, like I said, you don't need to have vacuum in governance. Okay, if you don't have vacuum in governance, then you must also do the needful. Ensure that the people are credible, are credit worthy. There are people who will be celebrated. They don't have stains in any way that will demean the posture and position of Nigerians, of Nigeria and Nigerians.
Okay, Ken, listening to Dr. Salihu, and out of 48, you have 45 cleared and you have an outstanding 3. Is that indicative of some kind of diligence in the clearance of what we saw in the Senate?
Yeah, we have to look at it with the facts we have on ground. The truth about it is that we have a new law that says that you must have the ministers within 60 days. So the question of allowing the court cases to pass, it will not come here. I'll beg to disagree that the Senate was not thorough. If you look at it, a lot of the people that were nominated were either former members of the House of Rep or the 7 senators. Sabi Abdullahi, even Elmahi is a 7 senator, Nkiru Onyechocha, Tunji Olubumi. I can go on and on and on. And there's a notion that says that you take a bar and go. You do not. The man from Akwa Ibom was a former member of the House of Reps. If you look at the statistics, I'm one person you will agree that to critique when I have to critique. I don't critique for just critiquing. We must call a spade a spade. Even Tijani, the young man from Ogun, who had even called the senator morons. They spent almost an hour in making sure that he had to apologize. But they looked beyond him calling the senators morons to his credibility and what he was going to bring on board. And so if you said the Senate was not thorough, the 9th Senate was not as thorough as the Senate, or the 8th Senate, if I have my facts right. In the issue of screening. It's not about being thorough, it's about what these people are going to bring on board. These ministers, you have a mixture of the old and the young. Of course, some of us have always said that governors are always recycled. I think Buhari even recycled more governors than Tinubu, if you look at it. Amechi served 2 tenures, Fashola served 2 tenures. We can go on and on. He didn't change them. So it wasn't a case of whether you had former governors or you don't have former governors. It's the portfolios that you're going to give to these ministers. We have a Wale Indu, who we know did very well in Lagos State. I'm not the spokesman for the Senate or the spokesman for the president, but I'm looking at it from the kind of persons that were brought on board and the characters that have been brought on board. Yes, some of them might be inexperienced and we will not want them to learn on the job. But the Senate actually went into a closed-door session. And you know, when they go into a closed-door session, they consider the petitions. That is why you have 45 cleared now. Unfortunately, one of those that have not been cleared is from my state, which you said earlier in your intro, that there has been complaints in Delta to say that the two ministerial nominees have come from one ethnic stock. As much as I'm desirous that you would have had a minister from Ndokwa, where I come from, for example, which is Delta North, a major player in the oil industry and one of the biggest producer of oil in Delta, where I come from. I would say that the nominations have been done by the president. Yes, people have tried to interpret Section 14, subsection 3 of our Constitution to say that federal character principle was not applied, but I beg to disagree. Federal character means that at least you must have a senator from every state of the federation. So it is the portfolios. When the portfolios come, that is when you can actually assess the people via the portfolios that you have been given. You have
let me quickly come back. Apologies to Barton here. Let me quickly come back to Dr. Salihu so that we can close. We're really running out of time. I really hope we can do this again. Quickly here, Dr. Salihu, you've listened to Ken, and again, he says it's not about satisfying his cronies or his friends. Being a member of the PDP, he's also said, well, it looks like this is a clear departure of what we've seen from the time your party was in charge.
No, I think Dr. Okolugbo is my friend. I want to say without any, without any point of contradiction, look, there are so many indicators, there are so many issues associated with the ministerial nominees. We're not talking about even the issues of either Senate clearing them or not clearing them. No, we are talking about, 45, senators cleared, 3 waiting to be cleared. That is 48. We're talking about the cost of governance. It would appear to me as if the federal government has a disconnect with the reality of the present day Nigeria, where hunger, starvation, deprivation, and deprivation are pervasive. And it would appear to be insensitive to have more ministers than your predecessor and the one that came before you. My worry about this is, if you have 9 former governors in the cabinet that have, some of them that have failed woefully. In fact, cataclysm should be the word, not even failure, in their own administrations, in their states. So what are they bringing on board? Are they bringing failure? Is this a time to celebrate or romanticize failure from people that have been? And then when you look at it, the financial implications.
Quickly, too, if we can
let
do
me
that
just quickly drop this point.
In 10 seconds.
Let me quickly drop this point. And that is to say, a minister is supposed to have, on the average, between 3 to 5 Prado Jeeps. Times 48 at 75 million, you have about 15 to 16 to 17 billion naira. Another same amount you put on board will take care of their own travels, per diem, and other costs. So you have about 30 billion.
We've made the point.
So there's so much that has to do with this screening that
absolutely.
PDP, I'm not speaking for the PDP, but as
well,
a PDP
anyway,
stalwart,
I think
I am not convinced that we are taking the right and correct route.
All right, okay, Dr.
But
Ladan,
again, this is Nigeria.
It's a fine place for us to leave
vacuum.
it. I'd like to thank you for your time. And of course, Sir Kenny Okolugbo, many thanks for being such nice company. And that's it on tonight's edition of Arise Prime Time. Do join us again tomorrow. From me and the team here in Abuja, it's goodbye and thanks for watching.